The galaxy was a vast and complex place. Every species, from the elegant and wise to the brutal and savage, had their place. For eons, Earth had been considered a primitive and insignificant world, far from the centers of power in the galaxy. Most species dismissed humans as nothing more than a young, evolving race with no real threat or influence. But now, something was different. The distress signal from Valrith had set off a chain reaction that would forever alter the galaxy's balance. When the alien fleets surrounding Valrith first received the message, they were quick to respond. The call for help was urgent, and every advanced species in the galaxy had the resources to answer it. But as they considered how to respond, the galaxy's leaders couldn't shake one question from their minds. Why Earth? Why had Earth, a species so young, so technologically behind, been the one to answer the call? It was baffling. The Council had anticipated a response from one of the established powers. The Zathor, known for their brutal efficiency, the Rillian Alliance, with its massive fleets, or even the advanced Trethians, who controlled vast sectors of the galaxy. But not Earth. No one could understand why Earth's ships had moved first. For hours, the galaxy's top leaders and military commanders gathered in virtual meetings, their screens filled with faces from every corner of space. Many were hesitant. The last thing they expected was for Earth's fleet to show up. And yet it had. As the discussions continued, panic began to grow. "I've been monitoring their ships," said General Tavar, a high-ranking officer from the Rillian Alliance. His voice was sharp, filled with disbelief. "They aren't sending just one or two ships to Valrith. They're sending an entire fleet. They're not coming to negotiate or offer help. They're coming for battle." A murmur of concern spread across the meeting. The galaxy had long assumed that humanity would never reach the level of the more powerful species. Earth had never been able to defend itself properly, let alone build a fleet capable of facing off with established powers. To the leaders of the galaxy, this was a dangerous mystery. The tension grew when the first reports came in. Earth's fleet was no small gathering of ships. It was a complex arrangement, each vessel marked with battle scars and signs of hard use. They looked old, almost as if they had been built long ago and left to gather dust. No one had seen ships like these in centuries. Earth had once built massive fleets, but they had been thought to be relics of a forgotten age. Now, they were waking up. "What are they?" asked Zira, a diplomat from the Rillian Alliance. She was watching the live feed from one of Earth's ships. "Why do they look so old?" "They're warships," said Captain Theron, a veteran of the Zathor fleet. He narrowed his eyes as he observed the images. "But these aren't any warships I've seen before. I don't recognize the design. But I know one thing. These ships were made for destruction." It was a statement that sent a chill through the room. The galaxy's leaders realized that they had misjudged humanity. Earth wasn't coming to Valrith as allies. They were coming to show what they were capable of. And they were doing it with ancient, forgotten power. As Earth's fleet moved toward Valrith, the galaxy's top commanders scrambled to make sense of the situation. They couldn't understand why Earth's ships had arrived so quickly, or why they looked so aggressive. Some of the species feared the worst. Had Earth gone mad? Or was this a calculated show of strength? Back on Earth, no one had explained their decision to launch the ships. The world watched as images of Earth's fleet moved through space, heading toward Valrith. While some humans felt a sense of pride, others were confused. Why would their governments make such a bold move? What had they gotten themselves into? But as Earth's ships continued their approach, the reactions in the galaxy only became more intense. Fear and uncertainty swept across the galaxy as Earth's fleet neared Valrith. The Zathor quickly dispatched a group of ships to intercept Earth's fleet. If they wanted to protect the galaxy from a dangerous species, they needed to act fast. It was a tactical response, meant to assert the power of the established species. But as the first Zathor ships arrived in the vicinity of Earth's fleet, they encountered a surprising sight. Earth's warships didn't respond to the challenge. Instead, they powered up their weapons, silent, but deadly. "We've been preparing for an attack," said General Tavar, speaking over a secure channel. "But I don't think we're ready for what Earth is bringing." The galaxy's fear intensified as Earth's warships unleashed a warning shot. It was a devastating burst of firepower that cracked open the space around it. It wasn't a full attack, but it was enough to send a message. Earth wasn't coming in peace. Earth wasn't here to negotiate. The leaders of the galaxy had expected a response to the distress signal, but they never expected this. "Those ships are something else," muttered Captain Theron, watching the destruction unfold. "They're not using the same tactics we are. They're not even trying to talk." At this point, Earth had proven a point. It wasn't just a fleet, it was a warning. The galaxy had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. As the ships neared Valrith, the galaxy's leaders began to realize something even more terrifying. Earth wasn't just responding to the distress call. They were declaring war on anyone who stood in their way. The Council tried to assemble a response, but it was already too late. A species thought weak had suddenly become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Every alien fleet that had once ignored Earth now found itself facing a force that could not be ignored. As Earth's ships neared Valrith, the galaxy waited with bated breath, unsure of what would happen next. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson. Never, ever underestimate humanity. And for the first time in a long time, the galaxy felt fear. The same fear that had once been reserved for the most dangerous species. Earth had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy was in turmoil. The fleet from Earth had arrived, and nothing was as it seemed. No one had expected this. The unexpected strength of Earth's warships had left the galaxy's greatest powers in a state of panic. They could no longer ignore humanity. Earth had just thrown down the gauntlet, and the galaxy was unsure how to respond. The first reports from the front line were grim. Earth's warships, which had once been dismissed as relics of a forgotten era, were now the focus of every species in the galaxy. The ancient, Scurd vessels had proved far more powerful than anyone had imagined. It was clear now, Earth's fleet was no accident. The humans had been preparing for this moment, and the galaxy was going to feel the consequences. Captain Theron, the Zathar officer who had first observed Earth's ships, stood in a darkened room aboard his flagship, staring at the flickering holomap of the galaxy. He had been watching the Earth fleet's movements for days now, his brow furrowed with concern as he tapped a few controls. The fleet was continuing its steady course toward Valrith, a system already on the brink of collapse due to an alien invasion. Yet, despite the humans' overwhelming firepower, they did not seem to be rushing into battle. They were taking their time, but it only heightened the tension. "I don't like this," Theron muttered to his second-in-command, a tall, angular Zathar named Ulra. "They're not acting like we expected. They're holding back. If they wanted to strike, they could have done it already." Ulra's eyes glowed a soft yellow as he studied the data. "You think they're testing us, seeing if we'll blink first?" "Exactly," Captain Theron said, eyes narrowing. "It's a power play. They're showing us what they can do without firing a shot. But why?" Across the galaxy, every major military power was discussing the same thing. Why hadn't Earth unleashed its full power yet? Was this just a warning? Or were the humans planning something more devastating? Meanwhile, Earth's leaders were grappling with the consequences of their actions. The decision to send the fleet had been made quickly, but the political fallout was growing. Governments across Earth were receiving heated messages from alien species. Calls for answers were pouring in. At the United Earth Command headquarters, President Amara Kim stood at the center of a massive war room. A dozen holographic screens surrounded her, each showing different parts of the galaxy and the movements of alien ships. The Earth fleet, which she had authorized to intervene, was now the center of a galaxy-wide debate. No one had expected this bold move. "We need to keep our people calm," President Kim said to her top generals, her voice steady but firm. "Our fleet isn't just a force for defense. It's a statement. We need to show the galaxy that we are no longer a weak, untested species. General Eric, one of her top military advisors, crossed his arms. The galaxy isn't ready for us, Madam President. We may have the firepower, but we don't have the experience. If we push too far, we'll be hunted down. This could mean total war. Kim nodded, aware of the risks, but the decision had already been made. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for far too long. It was time to prove that Earth was no longer a target, but a force to be reckoned with. But as the Earth fleet made its way deeper into the galaxy, the atmosphere of uncertainty spread like wildfire. Messages from across the galaxy flooded in, some offering support, others making veiled threats. The Galactic Council, once certain in their dominance, was now questioning everything they knew. The Rillian Alliance, a peaceful and diplomatic species, was the first to speak up. "I've never seen anything like it," said Chancellor Zira of the Rillian Council, watching the events unfold. "The humans are not acting like us. They are not here to negotiate. They don't care for alliances." Her voice echoed in the council chambers as her advisors looked on, unsure how to proceed. "We can't allow this. If Earth is willing to destroy us to protect one planet, they'll destroy all of us to protect themselves. We need to act fast, or we may lose control of the galaxy entirely." Zira's fears were shared by others in the council. They understood that humanity had the potential for tremendous power, but what worried them most was Earth's unpredictability. What if humans were not interested in diplomacy? What if they were only interested in total annihilation? The council issued a formal decree. Earth must be contained. Diplomatic envoys would be sent, but military forces would be deployed if necessary. It was a decision made in desperation, driven by the fear of the unknown. Earth's response to the distress call had shown them something the galaxy could not ignore. Humans were not afraid to fight, and they were more than capable of winning. But what the council didn't know was that Earth wasn't just reacting to the distress call. It was sending a message that even the most powerful species in the galaxy couldn't ignore. Earth wasn't just a fledgling power. It was a species capable of changing the very course of galactic history. Back in the Valrith system, the humans remained silent. They hadn't engaged the enemy fully. They hadn't fired a single shot since their initial warning. Yet their ships were ready. The power in their weapons and the skill of their crews were undeniable. There was something terrifying in their restraint. For the first time in galactic history, humanity wasn't the prey. It was the predator. And no one knew what would happen next. The quiet before the storm was eerie. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Earth's fleet had yet to unleash its full power, but everyone knew it was coming. The air was thick with tension, and the galaxy's leaders were scrambling to make sense of humanity's next move. Captain Theron, the Zathar officer, paced back and forth on the bridge of his flagship, the Nemesis. He couldn't shake the feeling that the humans were setting a trap. He had studied their tactics, efficient, relentless, and methodical. But this was different. They had done nothing so far, and it unnerved him more than any battle ever could. Ulra, his second-in-command, stood by the tactical console, eyes glued to the blinking lights of the galactic map. "Captain, we've received a communication from the Galactic Council. They're asking us to maintain our position. No one wants to provoke the humans first." Theron growled under his breath. Typical. They're afraid. But they'll see. The humans are waiting for something. As Theron spoke, a report flashed across his screen. It came from a Zathor reconnaissance ship that had ventured into the Valrith system, hoping to get an up-close look at the Earth fleet. Their message was brief. The humans are moving. The recon ship had been destroyed just moments after sending the message. The humans hadn't even fired a warning shot. Theron clenched his fists. "They're testing us," he muttered, "poking us to see how we'll respond." In the Galactic Council chamber, Zira, the Chancellor of the Rillian Alliance, was speaking urgently into her communicator. The Rillians had managed to gather enough information to know that Earth's fleet was more powerful than anyone had predicted. They could only guess how many ships Earth had, but the reports indicated it was far more than what the humans had been rumored to have in the past. The unknown was terrifying. It was clear that Earth wasn't just a new power to reckon with. They were a new breed of warrior, something none of the other species had ever seen before. "What are the humans waiting for?" Zira asked aloud, her voice strained. She had thought of every possible scenario, but this one didn't fit the rules. Back on Earth, President Amara Kim was standing in front of a row of holographic monitors, each showing a different sector of the galaxy. The president had seen enough to know that the galaxy was afraid. Fear was the one thing that united all the species now. The humans were now a force to be reckoned with. Her top military advisor, General Eric, stood beside her, waiting for her orders. He had been one of the few who had truly understood the need for Earth's strength. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and now the time had come to make sure the galaxy remembered their mistake. "The moment is coming," Kim said. "We've waited long enough." At her signal, a series of coded messages were sent to the fleet. Each ship responded with a deep, resounding hum. The engines powered up, and the massive ships began to accelerate towards their targets in the Valrith system. Every piece of technology, every weapon, every strategy had been designed for this one moment, to strike fear into the heart of the galaxy. The human fleet moved into position without hesitation, their movements swift and silent. At first, nothing seemed out of place. The ships had been hanging in orbit, waiting for the perfect time to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Then the signal came. A single command was given. The first shots were fired. The galaxy would never forget the first strike. At the same time, the Rillian Council received an alarming message from a distress signal, one that had been sent by a planet within the Valrith system, just moments before their communication was cut off. The message was nothing more than a scream, echoing across the frequency. "Help us. They're here." The message was enough to send shivers down the spines of every leader in the galaxy. Earth's fleet had arrived. They had not come with words. They had come with firepower. As the first of Earth's warships launched their deadly barrage, the galaxy saw firsthand what humans were capable of. The ships fired rapidly, their weapons tearing through the enemy ships that had once believed themselves invincible. The sheer power of the human weapons shattered the belief that anyone could stand up to them. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Theron watched the chaos unfold. He had seen many battles in his time, but nothing like this. The humans were relentless. The weapons they wielded were unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. They were powerful, efficient, and unyielding. "They're tearing through them," Ulra said quietly. "They're wiping them out." Theron's eyes narrowed as he observed Earth's ships in motion. "This isn't just a fight," he whispered. "It's an annihilation." News spread quickly through the galaxy. The Earth fleet was unstoppable. Systems that had once been thought of as safe havens were now targets. The sheer force of Earth's response had turned the tide of power in an instant. Every species, every nation, every counselor who had underestimated humanity was now on edge. The galaxy didn't know what Earth would do next. One thing was clear: they were no longer the underdogs. They had risen, and they had risen with a vengeance. And in that moment, every species in the galaxy realized the terrible truth. Humanity was not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to rule. The entire galaxy was on edge, caught in a storm of uncertainty and fear. What had started as a skirmish, a mere warning shot, had escalated into something far more terrifying. Earth's response to the galaxy's call for help was not just about defense. It was about total domination. Reports came in from every corner of the galaxy, and the message was the same. Earth's fleet was unstoppable. The once mighty warships of the Zathor, the Rillians, the Valrians, none of them stood a chance against the new power rising from the ashes of humanity. The human weapons had torn through them as if they were nothing more than paper. It wasn't just the raw power of the weapons. It was the strategy. Earth had spent decades building their military might, and now it was paying off. Each ship was meticulously designed for one thing: to crush every enemy that dared to stand in their way. Every shot was calculated. Every move was deliberate. The galaxy had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now they were paying the price. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Theron had finally received orders from the Galactic Council. He was to retreat. He was to leave the Valrith system and return to the Council's safe zone. The Council had called for peace negotiations, but it was clear now that the Council was terrified. They saw what Earth was capable of, and they were afraid that the humans would come for them next. As he processed the order, Theron couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread. The humans had shown no mercy. Their strikes were precise, devastating, and unyielding. They had no intention of negotiating. They had come to claim the galaxy. "We cannot retreat," Theron said, his voice low but firm. "We must stop them." But Ulra, his second in command, looked at him with a mix of disbelief and fear. "Captain, we have lost contact with our reinforcements. Earth's fleet is too powerful. We can't defeat them." Theron's jaw clenched. He was a fighter, and he had never backed down from a battle. But this was different. Earth had thrown everything they had into the fight. And it wasn't just the weapons. It was their unshakable resolve, their burning desire to be recognized. The humans weren't interested in diplomacy or negotiations. They wanted control. The Nemesis was ordered to withdraw to the edge of the system, where they could regroup and report back to the Council. But as they retreated, the humans followed. Hundreds of ships from Earth's fleet, the massive warships with their dark hulls, appeared from the shadows, emerging from the space surrounding the Valrith system. It was as if they had been waiting, like predators stalking their prey. The humans were not about to let anyone escape. Ulra's voice trembled as she looked at the view screen. "Captain, they're closing in. We're not going to make it." Theron's eyes never left the screen. He had seen battles before, but this one felt different. Earth wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. They were showing the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of, and there was no way to stop them. The Nemesis fired back in a last-ditch effort to defend itself. But the humans didn't flinch. Their firepower was overwhelming. With each explosion, another Zathor ship was ripped apart. Theron felt the ground beneath him shake as his ship took a direct hit. The lights flickered. The entire crew stumbled. "We're losing control," Ulra shouted. "Activate the escape pods," Theron ordered, his voice cold. "We need to get out of here." But it was too late. The ship was already on its last legs, the damage too severe to recover. The humans weren't going to give them a chance to escape. As the Nemesis was about to be destroyed, Captain Theron looked up at the screen one final time. He saw a human ship, its flag symbol, a bold eagle, emblazoned on the side. It was the symbol of Earth's military might. The eagle, once a symbol of hope for humanity, now flew as a symbol of dominance. The human ship came closer, its guns pointed directly at the Nemesis. Theron knew there was no escape. The galaxy had been forever changed. Far across the galaxy, on Earth's home planet, President Amara Kim stood on a balcony, gazing out at the endless horizon. She had watched as her fleet wreaked havoc on the galaxy. The time for mercy had passed. The humans had been pushed too far, and now it was their turn to rise. "We've done it," General Eric said, stepping up beside her. "The galaxy will never look at us the same way again." Kim nodded. "And that's exactly what we want. They underestimated us. Now they'll remember who we are." Her voice was steady, but inside, she knew the galaxy wasn't just going to fall at humanity's feet. There would be resistance. There would be retaliation. But the humans had made their point. They were not the weak species they had once been. They were the species to fear. The final destruction of the Nemesis was only the beginning. The galaxy had barely begun to comprehend the full scale of Earth's fury. Humanity had sent a message, and the message was clear. We are no longer to be ignored. Now, Earth's response to the galaxy's transgressions was not just an act of defense, but the first strike in a new, terrifying era of human dominance. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched in horror as Earth's ships moved through space like a hammer smashing through glass. No one had been able to predict this kind of force. The Zathor, the Rillians, the Valrians, all had underestimated humanity's resolve and firepower. No fleet, no alliance, and no defense could stand against what Earth had brought to the stars. Back on Earth, President Kim stood in front of a massive holographic map that displayed the movements of Earth's fleets, each line drawn across the galaxy like a blood-red trail. The warships were on the move, and each conquest only brought them closer to their ultimate goal: total control over the galaxy. "We have the galaxy at our mercy," General Eric said, his voice betraying a hint of pride. Amara turned to him. Her eyes, filled with both resolve and the weight of what was to come, glinted with an unwavering determination. "No, General, we have just begun." The people of Earth had longed for a chance to prove themselves. For centuries, they had been pushed around by alien powers who saw them as weak, unworthy of a place among the stars. But no longer. The galaxy's refusal to treat humanity as equals had turned into humanity's greatest strength. The humbling moment was over. Earth was not only fighting to survive, it was fighting to dominate. As Earth's fleet moved deeper into enemy territories, entire planets began to fall. The Zathor were the first to feel Earth's wrath. Their warships, once the pride of their empire, were shattered by the relentless power of Earth's advanced technology. Their defenses crumbled, and soon their planet fell silent. The Zathor were no longer a threat. Next came the Rillians. Their arrogance had led them to believe that they could stand up to Earth. Their massive fleets, known for their sheer size, seemed like giants compared to the smaller, sleek human ships. But Earth had technology that was far superior. And the Rillians learned it the hard way. Their ships were torn apart, piece by piece, as the humans relentlessly pursued them through the galaxy. "Send a message to the Valrians," President Kim ordered, her voice cold and clear. "We'll give them one last chance to surrender. If they don't, they'll be next." Her advisors were silent. No one dared to speak against her. The once feared Valrians, known for their cunning and intelligence, had fallen victim to Earth's strategy. Their entire defensive network had been breached, and their home planet was now on the brink of annihilation. They had been warned. "We'll give them 24 hours to respond," General Eric said. "After that, Earth will make its move." The news spread like wildfire through the galaxy. The message from Earth was not one of peace, not even one of negotiation. It was a simple, chilling command: surrender or face total destruction. Across the stars, planets trembled. The once proud alien civilizations now realized they were fighting not just against a species, but against an unstoppable force. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were the predators, and the galaxy had become their hunting ground. Meanwhile, on Earth, people celebrated. The victories came faster than anyone could process. There were no more doubts about the human race's place in the galaxy. They were no longer seen as inferior. The galaxy had pushed them too far, and now humanity was determined to take what was rightfully theirs. But even as the celebration continued, the leaders of Earth knew that this victory would not come without cost. There were always others watching, waiting for an opportunity to rise against Earth's rule. The galaxy would not sit idly by while humanity reshaped it. As Earth's ships closed in on the Valrian homeworld, President Kim stood before her advisors, her expression firm. "It's time to remind the galaxy that we are not here to make deals. We are here to rule." She turned to face the holographic map, and the dark shadows of Earth's fleets loomed large across the galaxy. "We've already begun to reshape the stars," she said, "and no one can stop us now." In the outer reaches of the galaxy, A fleet of smaller alien ships gathered in secret. The remnants of the Zathor, Rillians, and Valrians had begun to form an alliance, a last-ditch effort to stand against humanity's growing empire. They knew it was a desperate move, but they had no other choice. The galaxy could not allow Earth to reign supreme. But as the human ships advanced toward the Valrian planet, Earth was ready. They knew that any attempt to resist would be met with overwhelming force. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin, and Earth's fleet stood at the center of it all, prepared to crush any opposition. The galaxy had called for help, and now Earth had responded. But it was not the help they expected. It was Earth's time to rise, and they would not stop until every star in the galaxy burned with the fire of humanity's dominance. As Earth's dominance spread like wildfire, the galaxy's response grew increasingly desperate. The once mighty alliances that had ruled the stars now found themselves fractured, beaten, and scrambling for survival. The truth was undeniable. Humanity was no longer just a small, insignificant species. They were the new rulers of the galaxy, and the galaxy's former powers had no choice but to resist or face complete obliteration. A coalition of alien forces had been quietly gathering in the distant fringes of the galaxy, far from Earth's reach. The remnants of the Zathor, the Valrians, and the Rillians, who had suffered brutal defeats at humanity's hands, were preparing for one final, all-or-nothing assault against the unstoppable tide of human firepower. Their forces were small compared to Earth's overwhelming strength, but they had no choice. It was now or never. On the planet Draxus, the remnants of the Galactic Council were meeting in secrecy. The last leaders of the once powerful galaxy gathered in a hidden bunker beneath the surface, their faces filled with grim determination. "We've waited too long," Zira, the Chancellor of the Rillian Alliance, said, slamming her fist onto the cold metal table. "We cannot let Earth continue its rampage. The time for waiting is over." Theron, the Zathor representative, nodded grimly. "But what do we have left? Earth has already torn through our fleets like paper. How do we stop them?" "We fight," Karak of the Sithar said with an icy glare. "If we do nothing, we will be erased. We may be weaker, but if we fight together, we might have a chance." The room fell silent as the leaders exchanged worried glances. They had all lost too much already. Entire species had been wiped out, their planets reduced to ash. Yet, somehow, they had found the courage to fight back. Not for glory, not for power, but for survival. For the future of the galaxy. "We will take the fight to Earth," Zira declared. "We know their strengths. We know their weaknesses. We must hit them hard and fast before they can respond. And we must unite everything we have, every force left in the galaxy, or we will perish." The Coalition's fleet was formed. The final stand against humanity was underway. But unlike before, this time they were fighting together. The remnants of the Zathor, Valrians, Rillians, Sithar, and many other species all pledged their forces to this final desperate effort. Their collective might would face Earth's unbeatable warships in a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. At the heart of Earth's fleet, President Amara Kim stood before her military commanders on the Eagle's Wrath. Her expression was resolute, but there was a hint of weariness in her eyes. She knew the fight was nearing its final stages. Earth had crushed the galaxy's powers one by one, but now the remaining forces were uniting against them. "General Eric, how long until we reach the edge of their fleet?" she asked. "We're close, President Kim," Eric replied, his voice firm. "The alien forces are gathered in the outer rim. They know this is their last chance, and they are preparing to engage. We will arrive within the hour." Amara nodded. "Prepare the fleet. This will be the end of the war. We either conquer the galaxy, or we destroy those who stand against us." The vast armada of Earth warships moved toward the outer reaches of the galaxy, where the final battle was about to unfold. It was a battle that would decide the fate of the universe. The coalition of alien forces stood ready, knowing this was their last hope to prevent humanity's total domination. The final moments before the battle felt like an eternity. Communications across the galaxy were filled with the tension of what was to come. Both sides knew that this fight would not be won by strategy alone. It would be won by the heart of those who fought. In the darkness of space, the first shots rang out. Earth's warships opened fire, their cannons blasting across the vast expanse, cutting through enemy ships with terrifying precision. The coalition fleet fought back with everything they had, launching volleys of weapons at the incoming human forces. But the sheer power of Earth's technology was overwhelming. The battle raged across space, ships crashing into each other, explosions lighting up the void like deadly stars. But then, amidst the chaos, a small fleet of human ships broke off from the main force and headed straight toward the heart of the alien coalition. It was a bold move, one that took the enemy by surprise. President Kim, aware of the risk, had authorized the attack. If they could break through the alien defenses and strike at their leaders, they could crush the spirit of the remaining resistance. On the surface of Draxus, the leaders of the Galactic Council watched in horror as Earth's ships advanced. Their fleet was struggling to hold the line, and the human forces were already breaching their defenses. Zira clenched her fists, her eyes filled with both fear and resolve. "This is it," she said softly. "We either win or we die." The galaxy was holding its breath as Earth's forces pushed deeper into the heart of the coalition. The battle had reached a critical point. It was no longer just about military might. It was about survival and the future of every species in the galaxy. Would they fall before the unstoppable might of Earth, or would the galaxy find a way to unite and turn the tide? The battle raged on for what seemed like an eternity, the skies filled with the fire of destruction, the silence of space shattered by the endless roar of war. Earth's ships, enormous and powerful, pushed relentlessly toward the heart of the coalition, where the last remaining forces of the galaxy's once great civilizations fought to hold their ground. The human fleet, led by President Amara Kim and General Eric, tore through the ranks of alien ships, their weapons cutting through the darkness like a storm of death. It was clear. Earth had become an unstoppable force. No matter how hard the alien resistance fought, it seemed like nothing could slow their march toward victory. However, amid the chaos, something unexpected happened. A single alien ship, smaller than the rest, but brimming with raw energy, broke through the human lines and launched itself directly into the heart of the Eagle's Wrath, Earth's flagship. The explosion was blinding. For a brief moment, it seemed like all hope for humanity's victory was lost. The flagship, the symbol of Earth's might, staggered in space, its engine sputtering as fires erupted throughout the ship. But somehow, the ship held together. The crew scrambled to regain control, and President Kim was quick to issue orders to stabilize the ship. "We're not done yet," she whispered to herself, gripping the edge of the command console. "We're not done yet." While the Eagle's Wrath recovered, the rest of the fleet continued to press forward, pushing the remnants of the coalition fleet back. But the aliens, seeing the vulnerability of humanity's flagship, were emboldened. They had been defeated over and over again, but this one moment of hope fueled their resolve. If they could take down Earth's flagship, they might stand a chance of turning the tide. The situation was becoming increasingly dire for the alien forces. With their remaining ships falling one by one to the overwhelming power of Earth's military, they began to realize the truth. They were facing the end. They had called for help, and Earth had answered, but not with mercy. Instead, they brought firepower unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In a final, desperate attempt, the coalition leaders ordered the launch of their ultimate weapon, a massive energy bomb capable of destroying entire planets. It was their last hope to turn the battle in their favor. With everything they had left, the alien ships gathered in a last-ditch effort to deliver the blow. But just as the bomb began to charge, Earth's warships unleashed a devastating counterattack. The Eagle's Wrath, now back in full fighting condition, led the charge, ramming through the alien lines, its massive guns firing with deadly precision. The bomb, in the chaos of the final attack, detonated too early, and the explosion was not enough to stop Earth's advance. The battle ended almost as quickly as it had begun. In the aftermath, the galaxy was forever changed. The coalition fleet had been shattered, and with it, the last hope of resistance against humanity's rise to power. Earth stood victorious. As the silence of space returned, the galaxy's remaining leaders knew they had no choice but to surrender. The war was over. The once proud civilizations of the galaxy, who had sought to dominate humanity, now had to bow to the indomitable force that had crushed them. On Earth, President Kim addressed the galaxy's surviving representatives. "We gave you a chance," she said calmly. "You called for help, and we answered. We offered you mercy. But now, the rules have changed. You will obey or face total annihilation." The message was clear. Humanity would now be the rulers of the stars. But even as Earth celebrated its hard-earned victory, a new challenge loomed. There were whispers, rumors, of forces beyond the galaxy. Ancient powers that had been watching, waiting, and now taking note of humanity's rise. These were forces so powerful that even Earth's might not be enough to face them. And so, while Earth's victory was certain, the future remained uncertain. One thing, however, was beyond dispute. Humanity had proved that they were no longer the weak, helpless species that had once been preyed upon by the galaxy. They had become the predators, and the galaxy was now theirs to command. The stars trembled, and Earth's reign had only just begun.